Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that I am selling Enneagram mugs on my website, doitforthegrandpodcast.com/online-store. And there you can sip and shine or sip and grow, because these mugs on the front side have a beautiful written words of like the gifts and traits of each different number. And on the other side, it has a phrase or term that will help each number kind of get out of the unhealthy state of that number and challenge themselves to be better. So go there and check it out. All right. Welcome to Do It for the Gram, an Enneagram podcast with your host, certified Enneagram coach, Milton Stewart, where we do it for the Enneagram, not Instagram. We make moves to improve our lives and those in our community. So on this series, it is people of color. And in this episode, I have a really good friend, Vanessa Guzmán, who's also done an episode earlier, which I think you should really check out because she is a huge advocate of mental health and advocate of the Enneagram. And the Enneagram has really helped her. She's the Enneagram 6, and the Enneagram has really helped to transform the way that she sees herself, sees her own life, and the way that she works with people. And so she integrates the Enneagram with a lot of the students that she works with. And so I think it's absolutely amazing to hear from her and hear the amazing work that she's trying to do and how she believes that it definitely can and will help people of color by using the Enneagram. All right, listen up, listen in. Intro music, kick it.
How do you see the Enneagram impacting or getting to communities of color and marginalized communities?
Oh, that's a good one. So honestly, I think just being able to advocate it and being able to show people and apply it and making those correlations in itself, like that's how it's going to get to them. Because you think about it, people of color, especially coming from like the Latino communities that I've came from, you don't have access to a lot of things, whether it's word of mouth, besides word of mouth pretty much, and the internet. And so I think just being able to advocate online is huge. We have so many different platforms. And my biggest push has been to advocate it towards first generation students, first generation, because mainly I feel like they're the ones that are now going to college. They're the ones, everyone's, they're doing more than what their parents were able to do or provide them, or, those different things, those different backgrounds. And I think now that we're all starting to get our education, we're starting to pour back into our communities. I honestly think that's how we can do that. Like there's not enough on YouTube about the Enneagram. That's one thing I've noticed. And, and a lot of people YouTube everything. So I've been like scoping out different platforms, like how to get this out there. And honestly, I feel like online is going to be like the biggest way. I don't know. And I've been doing workshops at my job, and I've done one. And so I've had people ask me to do it again. So I'm trying to figure out how I can incorporate that, because I feel like it creates balance in all different parts of your life, like whether it's your work life or your home life.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You were talking about how getting into the community, basically through different workshops and the internet and YouTube, which is interesting because you're 100% correct on that one. It's not like, I didn't even think of it like that though. Like on YouTube, it's not like a whole lot of information out there. There's a lot of Instagram memes going on. There's a lot of different Facebook groups, but it's not any like YouTube readily accessible information, which I think that is an avenue that I think should be tapped into. I think it's super important for us and communities of color because, as you mentioned, like the field that you're working with the Enneagram, specifically more with people in mental health. Oh my goodness, people of color and people who are typically in poverty or on the poor side of life usually have tons of ACEs, aka trauma. And without the recommended resources of there's counselors here and there's all these different things out there, you don't know about them. So you live with these things and it's almost like I just have to live and bear these things and I cannot escape or reconcile or be with these things and understand how to work with them. And so you don't even understand. So you're stuck in these perpetual cycles that are damaging. And so I think the Enneagram can be the key in order to help get communities of color and marginalized communities to like getting closer to mental health and possibly different types of therapy or counseling as well. And so I really do think it can bridge the gap there because it is so important what you're talking about. Like the mental health aspect, I cannot hit on enough. It's so crucial.
Hopefully you have found some value in this podcast episode. You can help to keep this podcast going by supporting us on patreon.com. Patreon.com is a site where you can support content providers. Podcasts are free to listeners, but not free for creators. It actually costs money and definitely time to produce consistent and weekly podcasts. I podcast because I want to reach people and change our community through the Enneagram. If you want to help in that by supporting me, you can go to patreon.com/doitforthegram. That is patreon.com/doitforthegram.
Yeah. So I work at a college. And so all the people that were in my workshop are like support staff and they are, so they work with like admissions, enrollment. They work with a lot of students. And I feel like the Enneagram is huge in like showing them that compassion piece and, and being able to work with these students because the majority of the students we serve is, the Latino communities, the Native American communities, and it's a lot of marginalized people. And there's a lot of different resources for them, but sometimes people just can't understand what kind of things create these different people. And Enneagram is a powerful tool in that way and opening that lens and, showing some clarity and being like, oh, well, maybe, there, these different things that could happen to create this person's personality. I feel like just being able to bring that compassion aspect of the Enneagram to work and being able to share with people is huge because then they're able to empathize with each other. They're, and it creates harmony in the workplace and it creates harmony in the way that they serve our students, the way that they work with them and just those different parts and work together as a team to better serve the students. So yeah, I think, oh my goodness. The Enneagram just has so many different ways that you could develop yourself. And the way I saw it was really like a fast track to figure out who I really am and just why and really what areas I wanted to work on. Because, you hear people tell you all the time, like, oh, work on yourself, be your best self. It's like, how?
I know.
Like, what am I supposed to do? And Enneagram gives you those details, like, these are the different things about yourself that you should work on. And it's like, oh, really? Like, that's what I need to work on, and you work on them one at a time. And as long as you're always, shifted towards growth, I feel like you're on a good track, because it'll show in your different parts of your life. And my anxiety, my confidence, my self-esteem, all these different things have been affected through the Enneagram in a good way. And I wouldn't have done the workshop, because I wouldn't even have had the content if I didn't, find so much power in the Enneagram. And the biggest thing was, I want to push the Enneagram because I have found how it's brought healing to my life. I have found how it's brought clarity to myself and my being, and that the things that I thought were wrong with me are not wrong with me. They're, they're strengths. They are good things. And so I think, there's so much power in it, to be honest. I can't stress it enough. I tell people all the time.